Welcome. Super excited to be here today. We have a special guest. All our guests are special. What are we going to say? We have like a basic guest? We always say. Anyways, we have a special guest. Super excited to have Quanna here. She's going to tell you more about herself. But we met in the gym. We met in the gym and athletic form, and we learned a lot about each other in those like in between classes and stuff. And I just always gravitated towards you. I'm sure everyone does. You're so beautiful, so wise, so uplifting. And then I got to learn more about your story around co-parenting. So it's like, okay, we got to have you on here. You always are dropping gems. So want to bring you here for our guests to learn. So thank you.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Quanna.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, so who is Quanna?
Wow, I know that's kind of complex. I think I'm just now discovering who Quanna is. It's just like this post-COVID thing of being able to sit in my solitude during COVID, reinventing of who I am, because I became an empty nester. Okay. And then also my partner left me.
Okay.
So it was more of a time for me to really buckle down and say, well, who is Quanna? So who is Quanna to me? I would say is fun-loving, caring, someone who's about her business, someone who loves her children, someone who, what's important to me is family and spending time with my children, because my children are gone. They're not living in Seattle, so I'm alone. But I'm still trying to figure out who this little girl is inside of me. I'm still trying to uncover who she is.
I like that.
At 42.
Girl. Okay. Of course you don't look it. Of course you don't look it.
No, I was saying the first thing, little girl. So are you trying to tap into childhood, like memories, childhood feelings?
I am trying to figure out for myself is what's making me behave certain ways. So undoing trauma, and trying to figure out for myself as well of, I've always lived in the survival mode. So trying to figure out, well, who would this little girl really love to be as an adult? So that's what I'm doing right now. So I'm living limitlessly.
There you go.
Yeah.
Limitlessly.
Already dropping the gems. I'm like, I love that. It's like giving her a voice and really listening so you can figure out that next phase.
Right.
What does that look like for you? I know we're kind of skipping ahead. We'll jump right back.
Yeah, no, what does that look for me right now? Yeah. I say right now is that I just finished grad school.
Okay.
So I put myself through grad school during COVID, got bored. That was one of the things.
I got bored, got a grad
I got bored and I didn't do that.
As Black women, do we go get degreed?
I know.
Yeah, we get this degree one time.
Right. So I finished grad school, but right now I just started a new job in March and I'm traveling. I'm a regional manager. I'm in pharmaceutical industry and I work with Lou Gehrig's disease patients. Wow. So I'm just really uncovering that, but along the way of traveling. So I leave to India in September. So I'm really just putting myself out there to explore and get more cultured. Like I said, back to finding out who I am.
And well, you said you're going where?
I'm going to India.
Oh. Yes. What part?
So there's 4 different towns. I can't even pronounce the names of it, but I know one of them is like.
Bombay's one of them.
Yes.
Okay.
So there's like 4 different places we're going, but we're going with Seattle University. I'm going with Seattle University. It gave me the opportunity as an alumni to join them on their programs for their extended learning program. Nice. So they said, yeah, I could go. So I'm going, and then I'm gonna stop in Dubai and hang out in Dubai for 4 days.
See, this is what I'm talking about. This is why we have Quanna on the show right there.
So you said, which disease was it? I didn't hear the disease you said you were working.
Lou Gehrig's disease. Do you know what ALS, the ice bucket challenge?
I've heard that disease, something like Lou Gehrig's disease, but what is it?
So Lou Gehrig's disease is a neural disorder that you pretty much die from suffocation. So everything from your lower limbs, your neurons die off. So your body doesn't communicate to move your legs or the muscles to move, to tell your lungs to move, to breathe in, breathe out. So the patients pretty much suffocate. But they normally, if it starts in the upper body of their face, and I've have patients that I'm working with as young as like 25 years of age. It's the most heartbreaking space to be in. But I get to help these neurologists get patients on therapy, fight the insurance companies. And so I do that. I cover 7 states. And I've been in the pharma field for 15 years. Wow. I think this is the space that I love to be in. It's a small startup. So it's giving me a chance to post-grad to really put a name to myself and put that Black woman at the table.
Yeah.
So I'm super ecstatic about that.
At the table. I love that. I love that.
I just got one more question about it and we could get into it.
No, we can stay.
Why did you get into that? Why Lou Gehrig's disease?
Why Lou Gehrig's disease? So I've always been in very rare diseases, but this company is a small startup with 200 people I work from. My CEOs are 32 and 34 years of age. And they're open to the idea of just like what's new. They're not traditional old ways of pharma. And so when I found out it was Lou Gehrig's and I did the research of, okay, what will I be doing? It gives you purpose to life. And it makes you not forget anything. You wake up in the morning, you're blessed. put your feet down, you're blessed. These people can't even drink out of straws, let alone lift their hands. They lose their voice. Their eyes might just move. So, and they die within 2 to 5 years
of finding out their diagnosis.
Of their diagnosis.
I can't even imagine like waking up and you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
That's normal.
Yeah.
Like, not normal, but just like you take for granted.
Yeah.
Man, so it's terminal.
It's terminal, yeah.
Wow.
They die fast. I started with this company in February, and there was a patient I was working with, and within 2 weeks, he was gone already.
Wait, so, okay, not that this is a science healthcare podcast, but since we're here,
Kind of.
we'll be whatever you need it to be today.
Co-parenting
But anyways,
biology.
what? So wait, hold on. So is this a genetic disease? Like you have
It's
in
genetic.
your genes? It's not.
So it could be 2 different parts. It is genetic to a certain extent if you have a certain type of build out, but then also too, like in Guam, it's a high percentage of it. If we could go down the whole, I like science, and we could talk more about that. I don't want to get too much down in the weeds with it.
No, it'll be the late night version of the show.
Right, but it's just really environmental, and that's why working out, doing things, make sure my body is right, because environmentally so many things can affect us. And so this is what they're thinking. They're not pretty sure, but if there's a large population of this disease in Guam, and there's a lot to do with like blue algae. So there's all kind of different things they don't know yet, but they know when they've done studies that it has showed that blue algae, green algae, all those things could have something to do with it. And so it's just a rare disease. They're just trying to figure it out.
Blue algae, green algae, so it's like water, ocean.
Yeah, it's environmental. It could be athletes that have had an injury. It could be soldiers from being in different places. They just don't know. They just know that they see it. And so if they're younger, a lot of times there's a family history, so they'll test to see if the person carries the chromosome or whatever for it. And then they just kind of watch those patients. But there's some people who have it and they don't even know why they have it. So there's not a way that they can get down to the nitty gritty and say, oh, we could do this, we could do that. No, there's only 3 drugs on the market right now for these patients. And all it does is extend life by an extra 4 months. So once you're diagnosed, that's it.
4 months?
4 months, yeah.
Oh, dang. Co-parenting. So on that note, I'm just kidding.
Go pick up your kids.
I know, yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Thank you for sharing that, because like I mentioned, I just heard Lou Gehrig's disease, but I never knew what it was.
Yeah.
And then like it's not really discussed like the way it needs to be, apparently,
Right.
based on your description. Like, pay attention to like signs and
But it's rare.
Yeah,
It's rare disease. It's
rare,
super
okay.
rare. But there's
I
large
like to hear
pockets of
that.
it in different places.
rare.
So it's rare. It's very rare.
Right.
Okay.
I say thank
What
you
a
for fighting for it.
powerhouse.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
There's a lot of complexities to me. I just don't talk much about them at the gym. We talk
I
gym.
never. Yeah. No,
Okay,
that's
maybe y'all
well,
at the
not with
treadmill.
me anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the treadmill, talk about Lou Gehrig's disease on the elliptical or nothing like that. So.
They be like, what?
Right.
I have a slew foot. Something's going on.
Oh my
Oh, my
gosh.
foot fell asleep. We were like, what's going on?
And we
Lou
good. We
Gehrig's.
start coming to you. I was gonna say, wow. Okay, so
Co-parenting.
you're a powerhouse in the healthcare industry. You've just gotten your what degree?
I got my executive leadership MBA.
All right. What does that mean?
So for me, what it means for me is interesting because I just came back from Boston. And our head, before I leave, he always goes, "Are you happy?" And so I said to him, "You've asked me every time I come back to Boston, am I happy? What is that about?" And he says, "We can't lose you."
Oh wow.
And I don't plan on going anywhere. I really plan on putting myself at the table. So whether I'm the VP of patient care services, whether I'm in charge of helping them do analytics and data, I know that this Black woman will be at that table. I work in an industry where it's very high demand. Well, it's all white men and white women. There's not very many of us. And this company, which is so interesting, is that our HR person she's a sister. Some of the sales reps, like I get to see people that look like me, but we don't never have anybody like us at the head. And so with me going to get my executive MBA in leadership, it was just like, okay, I could get that business part that I need that was missing, but also I want to be at the head of the table. I want to help make some of the decisions and bring more people in like me to have these jobs because we need to take care of each other. So that's what that looks like.
So balance. How?
That I know.
You talking about getting the degrees.
I know.
You're a mama.
Yes.
You like empty nester.
Yes.
You just get degrees off the whim. So what's your system like to balance all these things, especially since you care about every single thing that you're doing?
She's in the gym a lot too.
In the gym.
She has a great social life. She be traveling. She was in Ghana.
Yeah.
Going to India.
Going to India.
Balance. That's a good question. I think what that balance looks for me is what makes me happy and loving in myself and pouring into my cup. And my balance is making sure no matter what, I have to train every morning, whether it's a morning class. Like today, I got back in from Boston super late. I slept in, but I was like, you're going to get to the gym. So I did a noon class. So I have to work out to keep my mental right. Otherwise I'm moody. And then just with my kids, it's interesting with my children being gone. I told my daughter, I said, I don't hear from you very often. And I'm like, pick up the phone, just say, good morning. But I do like every morning, like, which is so interesting to me as a kid that I don't even call my grandmother or anybody saying, I love you. And that's a word that we expressed a lot with my family. And so I always text my kids, Mama loves you. Let me know if you need anything. My son's home. So our time is sitting down and eating dinner at the table. That's a standard without the TV on.
That's so cool.
Just implementing things that makes me happy is balance for me. And anything else outside of my children and what makes me whole is just the added bonus. So if you're trying to get down the road of dating life, like, I don't know what that looks like.
Right.
Right.
Right. We'll be talking about that. Yeah, we'll be talking about that.
Yeah.
On the topic of the kiddos, right? It's clear that they mean so much to you. What's the dynamic been for you, like co-parenting, or how was the beginning of your parenthood?
So I became a mother at 16 years of age.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which was interesting.
Okay, statistic. Go ahead.
With my, it is a statistic. My son reminds me. He says, "Mother, we shouldn't be here today."
Exactly. No, that's why I said it, because you clearly just broke down all the walls and all the stereotypes.
And my son reminds me of that very frequently. He says that to me. But we thought we were in love.
You and the father?
The father, yeah. His family, oh my gosh, like without his family, I don't know. I wouldn't probably know what family really looked like if it wasn't for his family. So my daughter is part Filipino. So her father is Filipino, but her father also helped me raise my youngest, my son. So when we separated, he left, which this is like a pattern in my life. So clearly I have some undoing. But when he decided to leave, it was difficult co-parenting. I think that co-parenting really came from his family, like picking up the pieces where he couldn't hold his end of the bargain up. And so it was difficult, especially me being so young.
Yeah.
I was young. I was still in college. I remember the words he says, all you do is work and go to school. I was like, yeah, but what else we're going to do? I have a kid. I have to work and go to school. So his family helped out a ton.
Okay. What did that look like?
It looked like from the fact that I still had a life. I still was able to join a sorority.
Oh, wow.
I was still able to do school.
Okay.
If Nay needed to spend the weekends with them, that was like not a problem. When I had my son, and my son is not even their family, like they took them to the Philippines for the whole entire summer. So I had the whole entire summer to me. So without that support system,
that's powerful.
Man, it was a major, because I didn't have that on my family's side. I didn't. My mother was a recovering drug addict, and she had just got clean and sober when my daughter was 6 years of age. So where Caesar, I'm gonna just say his name, where he couldn't pick up the end of his bargain, his father did, and his father still does.
Shout out to the granddad.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal man, and so where co-parenting for us come into place is well, what do the kids need? And they stepped in. Aunts, uncles, cousins stepped in and helped out until he was able to decide that he wanted to kind of step in.
That's so cool.
If that makes sense.
So you had a village.
Most definitely. Yeah. I had a village.
Do you feel like that the culture with the Filipino side of your daughter's family, that had played a role in how they saw their role in supporting the children?
Most definitely. And that's a whole nother topic too. Culturally, I think because it's different dynamics for them. Family is very important, and the family will not be broken up, irregardless of what the situation may be. And we will always be there. We will always provide. We will always respect each other. We will always powwow together. So I still did Christmases with them. I eventually stopped doing those things with them when his son started dating. And then immediately I knew too, when things were going south for us, like to where we couldn't even really have conversations, that it was time for me. It was probably best for me just to kind of I call it going into the Homer bush. So just kind of disappearing.
Oh my
Go-
God.
go what?
Going into the Homer
gift.
bush.
The Homer bush.
Yeah, when he like
that's-
sinks into that awkward emoji or
Yeah,
not emoji
like,
gift.
Yes,
oh,
yes,
okay,
yes.
that's funny.
So
Okay.
when, things were changing for him, and I was young. I was young with these two children and trying to manage life, and just went into my Homer bush. So that's when co-parenting changed significantly as well, because the kids showing up to holidays wasn't LaQuanna's going to bring them to holidays. It's like, so when are you going to come and get them? Oh, you want me to stop what I'm doing to bring them to you? No, I don't think that's going to happen. So you better have your dad come and get them.
Oh wow.
So it turned to that. And it was like that for a while. And I think it's because he was just trying to figure out who he was as a person.
Yeah, I was gonna ask, like, where did the change happen?
I'm gonna tell all this man's business. He about to be so mad at me.
Well,
But you know
we
what?
don't want you to do anything that would make things too hard for
It
you guys to
won't.
navigate the world. But
I just think for him that, when it comes, sometimes they just don't want the responsibility. And so it wasn't until my daughter got older that I was like, okay, and my son's playing basketball. I was like, well, I need to be here. They're not little anymore. Like, I got to be present.
Be more engaged.
I got to be engaged. And that's when my career had really started taking off as well. So it was like, I need you to pack your bag. You have to spend the night at my house. Okay, I'm going to be gone for 2 days. You're going to have to feed them. They need to be dropped off here. And so he would stay at my house.
okay.
So we had to change it.
And he was like, all right, cool.
Yeah.
Bet I'll be there.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's as they got older. I think when they were younger, it was just like, he was kind of just, we were young.
Right.
We were young.
Yeah.
What is the expectation of that? You can't.
You don't know.
Yeah, you can't
You don't
put that
know.
on
You're
there.
young. You're still growing.
Right.
Our frontal lobe is probably still developing.
It's still.
Yeah. So what was that dynamic like? Like, and what do you think maybe you had a shift within yourself or with interacting with your ex to get you guys to a point where you could at least kind of partner a little bit more?
For me, I had to control my temper
Okay.
because I had a horrible temper and attitude with him. I had to also think too, at this time too, within my career, I was traveling a ton with work. This is when my territory was getting bigger. I was traveling. I was having overnights. I would have to leave. And I was like, listen, we got to make this work. These are the things I need you to help me with. And if he couldn't do it, my mother would step into in the picture and help out. But he was just like, all right. Now it may not have been done the way how I would like to do it. And I think that's another thing too with co-parenting. We have to stop wanting our co-parent to do things how we do it.
Right.
Like, I would always say, well, here's the things that they need to do. They need to be bathed, they need to be fed this time. The homework needs to be checked. And I would have this expectation of him to be me. And I had to give him grace as I reflect back on that. Give him grace is that he only knows what he knows. And I can't because I do things a certain way that he does them the exact way without me getting pissy or having an attitude or causing conflict between us and just kind of just letting it flow, which is part of growth, and we got to that point to like, even we're not together and he's staying in my home with my children days at a time, which I thought was awkward sometimes. He was like, you have your ex living in your house with your kids because they can't go to his house and he's going to come to your house and stay at your house with the kids. And there was times I would always say, well, why can't they just go to your house? Why you got to come in my space, But then I had to tuck my pride and make sure my kids were happy. It wasn't about anything else. It was about my kids.
Right.
Okay. That's beautiful. I love that self-awareness around like, okay, what are the things that like I had to shift or manage and such. And did you ever get a chance to kind of dig deep into like what caused the frustration and the anger? I mean, I have an idea. But did you ever get time to really like sit with that, maybe even process it with him? Not process it with him, but express it to him.
Yeah, I think that didn't happen until after. I think my son was in 8th grade when we finally had a conversation, because it was at that point too. Now the kids were older, the dynamics were changing. It wasn't that he had to come to my house to stay with me traveling. My mother like stepped in and started helping with stuff because he had a partner, and so they couldn't go to his house because they didn't have beds and all those things that kids need to go and stay at their partners, at their co-parents' house. And I just wanted my kids were into sports. Like my kids had a busy. My biggest fear was losing my son to the streets. So I kept him busy. My daughter, I kept her busy. And it wasn't, oh, the boy gets this, the girl gets that. Like, no, what activities are we doing? Okay. This is how we worked. And so I just had to find someone to help me do that. And I think that once my son was in 8th grade, we had to have a conversation with my son too, about him not being his father, his biological father.
Okay, so he thought that growing up.
Yeah, growing up, and him finally meeting his biological father.
My bad. So it's two different
dads.
Oh, okay,
yeah,
okay.
Yeah. So it was at that point where him and I got a chance to like talk. And at the end of the day, no matter what, he would always say, "You're my family. I love you." And I was like, I know, like, but we still have to make sure these guys are not going to go crazy and that we're not tearing them up as humans, you know, so they could be functioning adults as well. So just talk. It takes a lot, like no matter what, like we will argue and yell at each other, but there was never a point that we didn't walk away and be like, okay, listen, this is what we need to do. And that's what I always loved about him, because he was, at the end of the day, I had to circle always back. He's always been my friend.
Okay.
And so I had to always circle it back to that point. No matter how things may have ended with us, we're still friends, bottom line.
What makes you friends?
Like what makes us friends, I would say, is that I was this young girl and all my friends are guys, and his family like took me in and gave me a part of a life that I didn't have exposure to. And he always reminded me that, like, I love you, like you're my friend, you're my blood, you're my family. And he would always say that, even though I would want to have like this stank attitude about stuff, you know, because it wasn't going my way.
Right.
And I probably wasn't being reasonable at times, just being stubborn, because I think just being a mommy mode of like protecting my babies, you know what I mean? And I had to give him grace. And I reflect on that now, of thinking about our conversations and things that may have happened. And I had spoke to him recently, and we were talking about me graduating from school, and he was just like, oh, you're so dope, congratulations. And having those conversations with him, it's enlightening to, like, we're still friends at the day. We could still sit down, and if we have to have a slice of pizza and drink a Coke, we will be fine. We're not gonna go and bite each other's neck off.
Amen. Amen. I love that. I think I asked that because when me and my child's father split, we have this desire to still be friends, because we grew up together for an extent, right? Like 10 years in a relationship since your teens, right? I mean, he's met my dad, and none of my friends have met my dad,
right?
Who has since passed, and so you know, that was important to me to maintain something, because we invested so much into it. But then I think we were trying to do too much. We're like, oh, we're best friends. Like, what does that mean? Like, why do we have to have a label on? Like, what are we trying to accomplish here? Is there something else under there? So for me, you know, we had to take a step back and really understand, who are we as people, you know, now that we're separated, and what does that really look like being friends? I think we're at a point where, in a way that's respectful to new partners, right? And so for us, we had to like figure that out. I don't think we've ever spent the time to like really articulate it now, but we've definitely like paused on this idea of like, we're best friends, but we still can send little goofy memes and like talk about our son and talk about other stuff, like how's your family? Oh, Bez was, you know, make a little joke, a little jab, maybe. So we can still do those things, and it's fine. But I don't know if now at this point, I'm like, we don't got to be best friends, but
but you guys still will have that foundation, because like I too, it's what's really interesting is that when I really knew that he was still my friend is when my mother passed away. And he like took it extremely hard, and my mother loved him. Yeah, my mother. I'm sorry, but I would be so upset with him, and my mother was like, "He's a good dude. Be nice to him."
Good man.
My mom.
I'm like, you can't take his side.
You're right.
But he like was. I thought I was like messed up, but to him, and he sat with my family. Like you come, you sit with my family, and everybody was like, oh gosh, they was like he took it really, really bad. So, and we've known each other since we were 14 years of age.
Yeah,
like
that bonds you.
Yeah, you're bonded no matter what, and then you share this seed together.
Right.
And then too, knowing that, you know, at times like as my daughter's growing up, Lord, I'm glad that the Lord has given me grace because she was not the easiest to deal with. And there was times that she would talk to him and tell him things. And I felt like too, like I remember one statement he had made as I'm rearing them. He was like, well, your mother works for somebody. She doesn't work for herself. I work for myself. You don't have to go to college. And I remember that was a comment he made. And I was like, don't do that. Like, don't do that. Like, cause then that puts something different in their mind that I'm raising them differently than how you would raise them. And he would just like make statements of like, you rule with the iron fist. And it was structure. He wasn't used to structure. His dad will leave to the Philippines and he'll be at home in the 8th grade by himself. And you know what I mean? Like, and his father's in a whole nother country. So just culturally just different in regards to how you raise your children. Am I making sense?
No, I get it. It's the language of how you're articulating it and making sure it's okay to identify difference, but like how are you what's the goal of even saying it? Like, and make sure that's really brought along. And, because, you don't want your kids thinking at any point that they're not getting the full, love that they deserve. And
because if my daughter is venting to him, I don't want, at the end of the day, and I would always tell him, if she's venting to you, don't come back to me and repeat it to me as if so she can get in trouble. But if it's something that we can work through, let's work through it. But if she feels comfortable going to you with it, I'm okay with that. That's her comfort. And I want that to be her safe space.
And you trust
him.
And
I trust.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I would hope that I could trust it.
Right.
But, and it's funny because I'm going to bring that up. There's a point that I was going to make with that. So she would do that. She would try to play both sides of the field when it came to things, and she would get in trouble. And this instance was high school. She didn't get to walk her senior year in high school. She didn't pass health like 3 times. And I'm like, but her report card's going to her father's address and these things, and I'm like, I need you to send the grades here. I need to see these things. And but it was like, I'm gonna protect her. I'm gonna protect her. I'm gonna protect her.
From
and then
what? Getting the love and support she needs with the grades.
Right, I know. And so so it just, to me, it just didn't make sense with that. And so that was one that had was a stinger for me because I wouldn't have handled it that way. And so I think too, with the co-parenting with me too, I think culturally is just something so different that gets in the way when you have biracial children too. It's just culturally that could become challenging and difficult to navigate that space because the views are different.
Right. What's one that was extra challenging?
Well, that was one is like education is major for me. It's major for me because that's what got me out the hood. But for them, education is not a big deal, because that's the norm in their family. But for me, it's like, you need to do all these strides and you need to achieve well. It's not like we're not just getting by. And so when they hid that from me, and then I finally went to the school and got everything that I needed, and the principal was like, no, I told her to call you, and her grandfather paid $150 for her to do this online class, and she didn't do it. That was like, I'm pissed.
Oh, they've been working.
We're in the dark about like a critical moment.
And I would have never done that. I would have never done that.
Right. So the product, like biracial children. So it seems like, you had the village, like not village mentality, but it was a village raising these kids.
Right.
But typically when you hear about biracial children, there's always some kind of negative connotation, so like they have to deal with identity issues. Did you experience that at all with your kids?
Yeah. But my daughter, she's a gorgeous gal. She has thick curly red hair, and when you see her, she doesn't look like she's black. My son, his father's black, but he doesn't look like he's black. But it's interesting because they were a private school, and then I let her go to public school in high school, and she dealt a lot with bullying in high school. She dealt a lot with she's not black. And then my mama, of course, Beverly Jean, had to go up to the school, and then they're like, whoa, well, who is this?
It's real out here.
So that I think that was extremely hard. And then my grandmother would make comments because my kids were really tight with their dad's family. That's where we spent all of our holidays. That's where we did everything related to family. There's more structure there. There's no aunties and uncles are not fighting each other during the holidays. Like, let's be real. We know how it is. And my grandma made comments, they over there with the Filipinas. And I was like, yeah, we are. We're over here eating this pancit and this lumpia. You want to join?
It be those comments though.
Right, you want some adobo?
Yeah, I'll take a little. No,
Yeah, right? Absolutely.
So
right.
with that, did your side of the family ever initiate a kind of like, why is that? Or they just attack you for not bringing the kids over there?
I think it was just slick comments. And I
Yeah.
think too, you have to look at for the fact that I'm so different from everybody. So I've taken the little I have had and said, I don't want to live this way. And so I've always been, I don't even know if the word is really should be black sheep, because it's not black sheep. They're really the black sheep. I'm the norm. And that's how I look at it. But I wasn't their norm.
Right.
And so I was used to that. That wasn't.
Those like backhanded.
Yeah, I was just
comments,
like, whatever. And I
Right.
think too, that's why as an adult now, I just be like, what else? I will okay you and give you the deuces any minute and be okay with that. But I believe like, it's just, come on, we know how it can be. Like, it's not a secret.
Right,
We deal with our own stuff within the Black community, which is unfortunate. So,
Right. The crab pot theory. My mom would always teach me about that. You know, I was in a DEI conversation at work, and I shared, you know, a perspective that's common around the Black community, and there was white tears. So now that I want to share what the crab pot theory is, but I'm like in the back of my head, I'm like, I don't know if all my listeners are ready for some of these things. Also don't like airing the Black dirty laundry for people to not understand. So I'm not going to go into that. People can do their own research. Yeah. But obviously, well, I don't want to also curate my content for the white audience too. So, but the Black audience already knows this phrase. So, anyways, I just want to share that thought process that I just went through openly with all y'all as I was going through it. But I want to go back a little bit. So with the homework situation and any other situation, like, how did you manage that? How did you guys solve those kind of problems between you and your co-parent?
that's hard.
And did you?
We didn't.
Okay.
Because I was the scholar and he was like,
Okay.
You know, so he just did what he could. And I just had to make sure I had to make my kids responsible, if that makes sense.
So you put the onus on them versus the parent tag team.
Right. Yeah. I had to, because I had to make sure that they got things done. And if it didn't get done, and say I'm gone for a week of work of travel, and then they're not going to get a whole week of work without the travel. So at that time, it's the phone calls. Right. What are you working on? Right. My son was big on picking the phone. Well, mom, he was the one that was going to tell it all. Yeah. My daughter's like, I'm not doing anything. Put that at the bottom of the backpack. So, but and they're both extremely smart kids. But he's always taken school very seriously. Like, you know, you have smart children, and then you have one that just does the bare minimum just because they don't want to put the effort into it. And then you have one who's like, I could knock this out the park with just reading, just drifting, like skimming over the books. That's my son. Like, he just has it like that. But he's been the scholar. And so I had to teach them and it's really interesting as I'm talking to you guys about these things, I'm reflecting on it. Like, making sure it goes down to organization. Like, their notebooks are organized, their calendars updated, teaching them how to take notes in their calendar, and putting the onus on them to be responsible for that. So then it's simple for him to say, okay, let me just look to see if it's done, of not having to do that. And if at times with my daughter, if she was needing help, well, my daughter was really good at math, so she would help my son with his math. But if there was times that help was needed, that was being done over the phone when I was not around. So he was only really responsible for them when I was working. Otherwise than that, they were always with me.
How does that make you feel, that you feel like you had to brunt a lot of the heavy lifting with stuff like that?
I'm not bitter. I think about it. I think about, because as I was growing up, I'm still growing up, but as I was growing up, in my Bible, I wrote down the things that I want to achieve in life. There's only one thing on there that I haven't achieved yet. Which is? Marriage.
Okay.
That's coming.
Yeah.
That's coming.
But I made it a sacrifice for myself, no matter of me still feeling myself, filling my cup, and me enjoying life and being in a sorority and doing anything. I remember my aunt had said to me one time, who helped raise me, I had a different life for you. And when she found out I was pregnant, and she's like, I have this different life for you, but I've lived a full life. I lived a full life at 42. I've traveled the world. I've done great things. I've done amazing things. And I still love on me. And I think that's the most important thing. So as I reflect on that, and I wrote the things down that it was wholeheartedly important that I brought these children into the world, that I be a great and phenomenal mother. And that was number one, hands down. So whatever sacrifice came along with that came along with it. Did I become bitter about it? No. When my daughter, who is now just turned 25 on Monday,
birthday.
I know, it's so
She's
crazy.
a Cancer?
She is.
Okay.
Eyes light
Oh,
up
that
like
must have been real fun. Mother-daughter
lit up, like-
relationships. And
Yes.
you got the
And I'm
water
Aquarius.
sign. Okay.
So-
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, but she's I love my babies. And they to me, they can't do anything wrong, but they know when they've done wrong. Cause I'm gonna,
Right.
and I say, I'm not telling you this because I want to tear you apart. I'm telling you this because I want you to become better, and
Right.
I want you to understand. And I've always been that type of parent. If they got in trouble or got a spanking, I'm explaining to them what's
Right.
going on, what I did not like. So conversating through that. But as I think about with her now and her reflecting on parenting and her feeling neglected from having a dad, she feels she was neglected and didn't get all that she could. Like she wanted more from him. I think about that.
Yeah.
I think about like, what could we have done differently? I don't know what I could have done differently. I probably could have picked a better partner, but I was a parent at 16 years of age, doing things I shouldn't have been doing. But I think about that, and I don't ever sit and say to her, well, he was horrible. I never have I ever bashed this man. Ever have I. And he'll call and he'll vent, and I'll say, well, did you regurgitate what she said to you so you could make sure you better understood what she was saying? And he'll say, yeah, but I don't feel that was the way. And I said, well, everybody's experience is different, so you have to honor people's experience.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't gaslight them either. You can't tell them that, well, that wasn't your experience. You have to honor their experience and think about it and see where you guys can go from there. So she feels she was cheated. He doesn't feel like he cheated in being who he could be. And sometimes as we are getting more wise, I would say, is that sometimes there's this little saying that was saying, you just got to let people meet you where they're, you can't put these expectations on people. You have to let them meet you where they're at, because they don't know how to go beyond that. Yeah. And so I'm trying to teach her that now at 25, as she's trying to navigate and she's dating and she's meeting these different men, and what is she looking for within these men to give her? Is she looking for that father figure, or is she looking for a partner, you know? Right. So making sure that I work on those things. So my kids are in that space to where now you're going to start seeing my parenting showing up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Like in your life.
Are starting to become trees now.
I love that. And I appreciate that's a topic that's come up before in other episodes, which is like, you know, recognizing that not everyone's going to be everything that you needed them to be. Like it's two sides to it, right? Like me now as a parent, right? I'm thinking, okay, there's how I want to parent and there's how he needs to be parented, right? And but we're learning, we all growing, so who knows, right? We'll all figure it out later. You know, I do some homework every now and then when I can, but so there's that element, but also it's in terms of co-parenting with someone who, I mean, who's not showing up in all the ways that we always would wish, you know? That is really challenging. But I've heard moms, usually it's moms, and it can be dads, right, too, but usually it's moms where they're like, hey, you know, they try to find peace by not pushing something. Like they'll state their piece, like I'm gonna make you aware of the expectation and the desire, the wish there. Now you know what it is. I'm communicating, right? But it's up to you to decide whether that's how you're gonna show up. And then when you don't, you know, I love that you had other parts of the village to support the kiddos.
I was lucky in that department. I don't think that you talk about beating odds. Like I without my village, I wouldn't be who I am sitting here today. And I've had a phenomenal village. So I'm very grateful more than anything. And my children, like I was so young with these kids and they've helped me rear them and instilled some great things into them. You know, my kids are very cultured. Like they like to eat different restaurants and different types of food. And my son wants to go have, you know, Thai tea and wants to go. Yeah, it's just like, oh, mom, you want to get Indian food? Like, do you want to? It's just the most random, but you don't get that from our kids because they're not very cultured. You know what I mean?
But what they're exposed to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I was going to ask you, so who are your examples? Who are your mommy mentors?
My mommy mentors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about that. So, the most important years of your life was what, to age 6? I lived
Like for that developmental.
Yeah. And
Really? It is?
yeah.
Yeah, when you form your identity,
Yeah.
you've
Really?
already figured
I
like
never heard-
formed
okay.
Yeah.
6.
certain parts of your identity by
Yeah.
6.
Six, 7 is that's what they say. They're most important times of your life. And rest in heaven to my mother, like irregardless of her not being there after the fact. I lived with my mother till I was 6 years of age, and I could paint days, outfits, memories of things that we did. I am who I am in regards of how I put myself together because of my mother. The way my style, my swag, the way I speak is because of my mother. I would say that as I had to move into the home of living with my grandmother, there was a lot of chaos and disorganization. So how I navigated that, I spent a ton of time at the Boys and Girls Club. And so they were gentlemen who were influences in my life, not women who were influences in my life. And so they're the ones that I was always on top of my homework. What did you need? How was school? My godfather, whatever I need, made sure I had. And then I had another gal who was like 18 years old. I would go to church with her and her family. But my grandmother was working and trying to take care of, there was 8 of us that she was raising. And then finally I got to move with my aunt. And so that was another example later in high school that I got to see. But I would say who I am as a woman, it's all from the beginning of seeing the things I didn't want to be, but also the rearing of like how my mother loved on me until she was dealing with her battling drugs. And no matter what, this is crazy to say this too, is that my mother would always say to me, you're my number one girl. Like the way you treat your children, the way you raise your kids, I wish I was that mother. And I was like, well, I only know what's in me. It's in me, not on me. Like it's from you. You may not have been able to give those things to me how you would have liked, but I picked up on the things how you and what you did when I was a little girl. Like my mother always had us decked out. You know how we had the patent leather shoes, bobby socks, the dresses, everything, the nicest things. Yeah. But in those teenage years, I had her, but I didn't have her because she was on drugs. She couldn't be the mom that she needed to be. And so my grandmother was in, but it was more of like just a community. The community raised me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I want to go back because my mom had me when she was 15. And I talked to my mom about what her mindset was. And she always told me, I didn't want you to have without. By hook or by crook, I didn't want you to have without because you're my baby, you're my son. What was your mindset like when you learned at 16, I'm pregnant?
Ooh, I know. And I was a good kid. I graduated top 10% of my high school class still.
Wow.
Still.
Man, LaQuanna,
Still.
I can't with you. This is
You go to
so
Garfield and you
good.
see the Garfield Golden Grad, you'll see LaQuanna Cooper up there.
Okay.
I
Flex
left
on it one time.
I left to Seattle U with a lot of scholarship money too.
There we go.
Yeah.
There it is.
It was more to me when I found out I was pregnant. I was just like, whoa, I can't get an abortion. And I found out, which is the most craziest thing. I just told somebody this the other day. I found out I was pregnant in the gymnasium, in the bottom of the gymnasium of Garfield when they had the Planned Parenthood. So, the Planned Parenthood would come
They
into
had
the
a Planned
schools.
Parenthood in the high school?
Yeah, they
in
had
the
one
basement.
in Franklin too. Yeah, there was a lot of Planned Parenthoods in high schools in Seattle.
In the basement of the gymnasium. They were down there and I found out I was pregnant. They did a physical exam on me. And I hid it.
How long?
I was 6 months when my aunt found out I was pregnant. And she found out I was pregnant because my brother called and said, LaQuanna's pregnant. And she walked in my room and I was naked and my belly was big. But I dressed like a boy, so nobody knew anything.
Oh, the baggy clothes. I was like,
Yeah.
anybody noticing?
No. And so at that point, I was just like, I don't even have to hide it no more. So I felt good at that. But I have been, and I will say this is I don't know how I've done this. God, that's what I'm going to say. Just say God. I've never been on assistance before in my life.
Wow.
You was like, you took that as a personal challenge. Like, I refuse.
That was
That's
it.
why I was like, it's funny you said
So,
that. Like, no, we're not doing that.
So the thing was, so when I had my daughter, I was pretty much done with high school. So I did run and start. So I was only doing 2 classes so I could stay in school, doing classes. Then I was in beauty school. This was a lot to me.
Yeah. Stay busy.
And I said, I'm going to work. And so I worked. And then I had my daughter's family helped. We've never were on state assistance ever.
Community.
Which is, but that was a personal goal of mine. It's like, I'm not going to rely on nobody to do anything for me. I'm going to take care of my own. I still challenge people.
Yeah,
Look at me.
Right.
I challenge everything. I'm not settling. I'm not taking the backseat to anything. Nothing is not undoable to me. You could say, okay, I couldn't get that done. That's fine. I'll go get it done. I could figure out how to get it done. That's just who I am. I'm persistent. I'm just a go-getter. I know how to navigate. No, doesn't exist in my world. So, yeah, I just, it was like, this is what we're doing. Oh, okay. So we're going to have this baby. All right. Then this is what we got to do. You get a job, and he had to go work at, was it Papa Murphy's? That's where they do the cold pizzas at. Is that Papa Murphy's?
I think so.
That's Papa Murphy's. Yeah.
He was a barber. Okay. So he made money being a barber, and then he worked at Papa Murphy's. Okay. And then I did school. At school, and I worked. I worked at the Gap. I worked at Old Navy. I worked at Nike Town. Like, I had jobs. Yeah. And I worked. And there was times that, and it's funny because my aunt, it was another point I had to prove. She was never going to watch my baby because she was more embarrassed that I was pregnant than anything. And it was like, I have all these things for you that I wanted you to achieve. I was like, bet. Then you'll never be able to open your mouth to say you've done anything but house me as your foster child. Like, that's all you will ever say. You've never would say you took care of my daughter. You would never say, these are decisions I decided to make. I will be wholeheartedly 100% responsible for them. And I'm okay with that. And if I needed a babysitter, she had her dad, she had her grandpa, she had her aunties, she had her uncles.
Nice. Did that dynamic morph with you and your aunt?
No, like, we're still, and it's funny because we're in the same industry. So our relationship is very different. I think when my mother passed away, we were more in a better talking terms, but I think I'm just one. If you would know one thing about me, I have this thing. It's not that I don't have a forgiving heart, because I do have a forgiving heart. But when you say certain things, because I grew up in so much chaos, if you say something to me, I will remember something you've said to me the exact day, what you had on, and you would totally forget about it. So it's the 20%, not the 80% that I will always remember. And I just don't unswitch it. I can't. I don't know how to unswitch it.
I feel it.
Because of the emotional impact the words have on you. So it's hard to forget how somebody makes you feel.
And you used it maybe to feed where you are now.
Exactly.
So it played a role, and you leveraged it to feed, your drive.
Yep.
So I can understand that.
Yeah.
I would say I've been told something similar. When I found out I was pregnant, you would think I was 16. I was 22, 23.
Oh, wow.
But my family was like, but I thought you were going to go to grad school. How could you be pregnant? You're not married. Like, I had, my eldest saying that. I was like, I can still go to grad school.
Right.
I was already starting to talk to, I was interested in medical school at the time, but I was already talking to women who were pregnant in medical school, things like that. Like, I was already doing my homework. I was already doing all the things, already doing all the research. But I like what you said also about, like, first of all, now I'm going to do it even more, right? Now I ended up finding other ways to make six figures and help people and like not have to break my back doing it.
Exactly.
But I will say, that fed me. I was like, what? Of course I can still go to grad school. Exactly. What do y'all think? I don't know what time you guys grew up in, but like with the right attitude, the right resources, and the right fire within you, right? You're going to figure it out. And I think a lot of Black mothers have demonstrated that time and time again.
And it only gets better. I know. It's like, what times did you grow up in? Like, absolutely not. So it just fueled me. It's just, I'm kind of complicated.
It's good.
Not really. You had a desire. You had a mission. You had a fire. That's not really complicated at all. And you had a vision for like a lifestyle that you wanted. Based on the conversation we just had, you knew what you wanted your kids to have, and there was nothing that was going to stop you from doing it.
Absolutely nothing.
That's not complicated. Like that part, but I know the process was, but just the mission.
And nothing gets in the way of that. So, and that included family. So at the time too, my younger siblings moved in with me. So not only did I have my 2 kids, I had my younger siblings.
Oh, so you was raising everybody.
Pretty much. But as soon as they thought they were going to bring chaos into my home and disrupt my children's world, I love you, but you have to go back to your grandmother's house.
Oh.
And so I've always lived in a separate world of my family, like not really with my family, if that makes sense. Like, because I protected my children. Like, I was like, it's just us. We gonna make this work. If it only at the end of the day is just 3 of us, and there's nothing that's gonna get in the way of making sure that you guys have the best that I can give you. And I will give you the best.
Right.
And I will have that expectation of you in return to do your best because I'm giving you the best that I can. Giving you the best that I got.
Right.
I love that.
Yeah.
So why are you so different from your family?
I was about to ask the same question. My question, the variation of that was, do you think that's where the separation of communication with you and your family comes from, because you had that fire, like, I got to get it, and they just never took time to understand that about you?
Yeah, I feel like as we all got older, because there was 8 of us that lived with my grandmother. I remember as we got older and life started looking different for me, and they started noticing life was different for me, I would always get, oh, but everybody treated you better. Oh, you're the light-skinned one.
Oh.
And it wasn't that everybody treated me better. I think that I always got the brunt in because I would get called white girl at home.
So you had your own unique trauma that you were
I remember
dealing with.
one day, I kid you not, and it's funny because I've never told anybody this story, but I remember we lived in the Bryant Manor, 19th and Yesler. So we played outdoors before the lights. You know how that went. I remember I have an aunt who's not that much older than me. So my grandmother had younger children too. And I remember one day, I don't know what had happened. All I remember is that she came in the house and like I was asleep, pulled me off the couch and like slammed me back on the couch. And she was upset at me. And then they would call me white girl all the time.
And you never knew why she did that?
She was angry about something that I did.
And she just slammed you.
Yeah. Yeah. So she's only like not that much older than me. And it's funny because I like growing up, my mother, she ended up moving with my mother. She was younger, living with my mother. I helped her a lot out with her kids. So I dealt with different things within my own family, but I just knew, I was just so determined. Like I worked at the CAY, at the farmer's market when I was younger, so I could buy sneakers and do different stuff. Granted, my grandmother would do those things for us, like back in the day when you could write the note with the Nordstrom's card and say, they're allowed to buy a pair of K-Swiss.
The throwbacks. Yeah.
Right. So we could do that, but I always wanted more. I always knew, like, if you're walking out of your community and your mother is high on the streets in the morning, you're at your school bus stop. Like I almost got kidnapped once, like just all these different things. And so I've just always made it determined that I want that. I want that right there. Okay. How do I need to get that? Okay. And I'm going about the right way to do it. Like I'm not selling my soul to get anything. I by no means like.
Right.
I know. I heard Quan, the street hustler on the street.
Hey,
name.
you might
I like
need her.
Quan, pharmaceuticals. Yeah.
Right. I tell people that too. I was like, sell drugs for a living. They be like, oh, I was like, no, I'm just joking.
Right.
But I've just been determined. I've just been different. And I question that because my cousins that I grew up with, one is deceased. My sister's been murdered. My younger brother's in and out of prison. My other brother that is underneath me, we're close, but you know, he has alcohol problems. It's not ideal for me because I'm used to like when Easter comes, everybody gets together, we do those things. And so now with my children being gone, and my daughter was like, I'm not coming there, Mom. You could come here. She does not want to come
Where
back.
is she at?
She's in Las Vegas now.
Oh, okay, cool.
But she had went to LA and then COVID moved to Las Vegas. That's like a whole nother story. But
Las Vegas too hot.
yeah, it's
Too dusty.
It's so hot.
it was in
dusty and dirty. I can't.
yeah, it was hot. I worked there last week because I covered the territory, so I worked there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we
cool.
get to spend time together then. But when holidays come, I don't have the dynamic that I had growing up to where, because there were so many kids.
Right.
But
Knowing you, you'll figure it out though.
listen,
You'll
well,
figure
thanks to
it
you
out.
too. You know, listen, all you gotta do is you tell me I need to meet somebody. You tell me I need to meet
Yeah,
somebody.
that's
I'll make a way.
exactly.
Yes,
Building
so.
community.
So I miss those dynamics of big family events, but I don't get to do those like now. However, they do have those events, but I'm just not going.
Yeah.
It's just
I feel it.
You got to pick and choose. Just because you go anywhere doesn't mean you should go everywhere.
no.
Yeah.
No,
Right,
no.
right.
It's just too much chaos for me. And I learned, we had a family reunion and my kids were younger. This is when they found out, they pretty much like knew I was pregnant with my son because my family didn't know. And so I had went And it was so chaotic. I had to get in the shower and I literally like was in tears. And I was like, I can't do it. It's not, this is what I've built myself to not be around. This is how I built my house. Like my house is like peaceful. My mother would always say, I come to your house, it's so peaceful here. It's so quiet. My cousins come, and if my cousin, she comes and dog sits for me. And I just told her, you could stay however. If Sean's away for school, you could sleep in his room. You could just stay whatever. But it's just quiet. She always said, it's just so peaceful, so quiet. But that's how I like to live my life.
Yeah, because
Simplicity.
you're out here going to war with the world. You got to have some kind of
Yeah. So I'm big on that.
So your story, I know I'm not trying to end it. I'm just saying, but I have to say this. But your story is very inspiring right now. Like you're really hitting me in my heart right now, dude.
Oh, thank you.
Like you really are. Like the fact that you grew up in the CD too, and and 16, like you refused to.
I refused to lose.
Refused, like from the rip, you know,
Right.
under all the circumstances.
Yeah.
So, matter of fact, okay, another question with that. What's the most annoying misconception people have about you?
Do we even care? But go ahead.
For the audience, for the
Like
people.
forget those people, but also
I'll give you something. Here's a piece to share. I might be looked at as being selfish by some. And I will say this. For those who may feel that I might be selfish with my time, my energy, my space, that's because they're at war with themselves. That's not my problem.
It's not yours.
And so when it comes to boundaries and set norms with those relationships, I will honor by any means how you feel. You feel that way, I honor that. I am not trying to change your mind on that, by no means. And I'll let you sit with that. But what I will say to you is, my boundaries are my boundaries. I live within peace. My aunt goes, you always try to live life safe. No, it's not safe. It's controlling the chaos. I grew up in the household where there was screaming and yelling all day. I am not taking that. I'm not taking drama, whether it's from friends, siblings. I don't do it. You want to talk about resolutions and how we can make it better? Hit me up anytime. But when you on some other stuff and you think, oh, you're just selfish and self-centered, you take that because I have boundaries and I have norms. We don't know how to set boundaries and norms.
Right.
And when you learn how to set boundaries and norms, then you will respect that. And you be like, well, and I always say, unfortunately, it's not my capacity. I can't handle that. And so I just step back. I go back into my Homer bush. Remember that.
Slide.
Right. Yeah. I was going to say, I think one of the things I've had to, or not had to, but the one of the ways I think about boundaries and try to help bring people along to boundaries, because it does feel like, oh, a boundary, you've pushed me out somehow. I can have full access to you. People feel a way about that, right? Which is like, okay, why do you feel a way, right? That's on them, like you said. But, you know, I want to know my friends' boundaries because I want to know how to love you the way you want to be loved, right? And I want to, and that's important to me. And I feel like if you really love someone, you want to know those boundaries, and you want to respect those.
Right.
And it's not hard to respect those, right?
No.
It shouldn't be if you truly love them. If you're needing something from that relationship that you're not getting there, you know, it's not on them to figure that out for you. Like, go fill your cup somewhere else, and maybe it's in you. You need to go fill that cup with you, right?
Exactly.
You don't need to look outwardly, put that on you to fill that. So,
and it's not selfish either.
It's not.
People take
and
it.
if what's wrong with? But it's selfish bad.
Listen, all my life I have been selfless. As I became. And with my children, I had to become selfish because I had to protect them and protect what we had so that I could make sure I could rear them the right way. I couldn't keep doing this because if I kept doing this and letting everybody come stay with me, and then I would have lost my children. And so anything that came in to disrupt our norms was not allowed at our residence. Right. And so I will take you in, house you, feed you for a little bit, but that's temporary. That's not a long-term thing because my children, this is their place that they need to be at peace. And I won't let anything get in between that. And that's one thing that they will always say. So people would say, oh, she's just selfish. But then on the other hand, they'd be like, oh, she does everything for everybody. She's so loving. It's like, pick what side of the fence that you want to be on.
Right, which one is it?
Right. Which one's convenient for you?
Exactly. Not for the situation that you need me that I said no for.
No.
Right.
So I wanted to ask both of you guys this question regarding boundaries, right? Do you feel like people are afraid to establish boundaries due to offending somebody?
Most definitely. And I will tell you, that is like my new high. I have been establishing boundaries.
Like,
I will set these norms. I have some people pissed with me right now. Listen, everybody is going to get them because I am trying to be at peace with myself. I'm trying to protect my energy. I'm dealing with grief myself. I got to protect that space that I'm trying to navigate. And with me finishing in grad school and that coming off that high end and now going back into my grief and dealing with the highs and lows of that, I just don't have the time to deal with other people and what they got going on.
They always got
So
something
unfortunately,
going on.
boundaries are being set. I love you. If you want to sit down and go have a cocktail and talk about something else other than what you got going on that's not interesting to me, then we could do that. But
you might get this boundary though.
Oh, you will get this boundary.
Yeah.
I love it. I think I've gotten better at setting boundaries for sure. I didn't learn until the last few years that I had some people pleasing tendencies. And I saw it as, I think as a Black woman, as women of color, we're definitely expected. And as moms, oh my God, it's stacked against us to not set boundaries. There's an expectation. If you set a boundary, you're a bad mom, right? There's this idea that you taking care of yourself, having needs, and then going and fulfilling those is a bad thing because you should be suffering. You should be like suffering as a mom. If you're a good mom, you should be suffering.
That's what I'm living in.
What?
Soft girl.
What is that?
Soft girl.
Yes,
let's
I'm
go.
done being a survivor.
Okay.
I'm off of my Destiny's Child.
Not on the life raft in the store.
Right. We are not doing that.
Yeah.
We are living in a soft girl. I have worked my rear end off. My children are out of my home. I still get to love them and do all the fun things with them. But now I'm in a space that I get to really do the things I didn't get to do because I was such a young mom. And I'm living a soft ass life. I don't have time, and I will not be living in survival mode.
Soft girl era. I've never heard of that.
Well, today's a new day.
New day.
Yes, luxury. It looks good on you.
Yeah.
Travel, all the things.
Yes.
Peace of mind.
So what are those things to establish this soft girl era that you're in right now?
Going to the gym in the morning like we talked about earlier. So taking care of self, eating healthy, feeling good, looking good. My grandmother always said, you feel good, you look good. So doing those things, taking care of myself. Traveling. Right now, I'm just big on my travel. You just got to do it. And I'm not talking about, you're not going to go take your little Miami trips or your little Vegas trips. Go see the world. Because it will buckle you and put you to your knees. There's more than what's around this. And the way they function with so bare minimum. And the way they love on each other. And way family, they take care of each other. Like, that's just where I'm at. So I just decided that during COVID, like I literally was traveling. That's where my big traveling started, was during COVID, because we could work remote. So I was everywhere, using my miles, using my timeshare, doing all these little crazy things.
Like, bye.
Right. But once you learn the exchange of the dollar too, and you pay attention to what's going on, and you know that our dollar goes so far. So listen, I like nice things, but a girlfriend could live in a backpack too. So I'm okay with that. But you could go, I went to Ghana, I didn't even spend much money in Ghana. Going to Ghana. I thought I was going to spend a ton of money and I didn't, you know? So the exchange of the dollar goes so far. And because I travel so much for work, I have the blessings to have miles and utilize my miles. Like I'm literally flying to India for $99.
Yes. I love that.
The hell?
The only ticket I paid for was in between leaving India to go to Dubai.
Okay.
So I did my miles going to India and then leaving Dubai.
Okay.
$99, baby.
So, LaQuanna, when's your book coming out?
Yeah.
Why does everybody keep asking me that?
That'd be good.
Fam. You got
You are not the first person that has said that to me.
You have a book. So I write children's books. So I'm a children's book writer as well. So I recognize a good book when I see it. So you have a book. No, you got a series.
Yeah.
With the whole politician
You're
pose.
making me blush.
The whole politician pose where you sit like this in the back of the book.
I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. You know, let's talk.
Yeah.
Like, you're not the first person that have said this to me. I feel like once people really, truly get to know who I am, and I don't live imposter syndrome at all. I come to the gym, we talk, we have good conversation. But I've been through some shit.
That's why you need a book, bro.
I know, but I don't share it. I just do life. Like I don't, and that's why I'm able to do life, because I don't use it as but I've been through all these bad things.
Right,
you know,
right.
I don't do that. Like,
No.
you are not the first person to have, this is God.
Yeah, no, because here's why. Your message is going to be seen by a finite amount of people when you're saying it. Your book is going to be able to share your message with people that you'll never get to see in real life. And think about how many young girls right now who just found out they're pregnant at 15, 14, 16 years old, and they're being told, oh, you're going to be a statistic. Oh, your life is over. Or you're going to be just like your mama, blah, 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 blah. And they read your book, and you just got a graduate's degree.
I did.
So that let them know, no, it's going to be harder, but it's not over.
Right.
And this is where the steps I took. This is where I had to overcome that message too. Because you think about today's time of like social media and bad advice, everybody's getting told, especially young Black girls all the time, you can't do this. You're not supposed to do that. You're not meant for that. But the fact that you showed the story that you were 16, grew up in the hood, mama was, on drugs and like whatnot, and now you're in pharmaceuticals.
Yeah.
With 2 babies.
Yeah.
Out there and about living a soft girl era.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, come on,
all the way, baby.
That's a book.
Right. But I do want you to take time to decide, like you were saying, like, oh, I don't do this for that. I don't share my story and decide, like, okay, is that what I want to do? Why would I write a book?
Right.
What do I get? So yes, you could inspire others, which is amazing. And that's a very noble thing to do. But also you don't have to do it that way.
Yeah.
So you can decide what would resonate for you.
Right.
But if you said this is if some other people have told you wrote a book, come on now.
I know you're not the first. When you said that, I was like, okay, that just made my stomach hurt.
Come on.
Oh, really?
To do it.
Yeah.
Why? Tell me.
Yeah.
Just because I feel like God has something big for me right now, and I feel it in my bones. Like I feel I'm gonna get choked up.
Let's go. I love a good tear.
Yeah.
Like I just put myself through freaking an executive MBA program. That shit was not easy. I was the only Black woman in that program. Not very many Black people go through Seattle U's executive MBA program. I put myself through that and walked out of it with no debt.
Wow.
Like I feel like God
From Seattle U?
From Seattle U. Like I just feel like God is, I don't know what he's doing right now to me, for me, in me. I'm receiving all that he's giving me. And I've had numerous people that keep asking me, like, when are you gonna write a book? For the ones who truly know my story. Mm-hmm. And so I'm growing up and I'm figuring out who this 42-year-old young girl is really, and what she can share with the world. And it just kind of shook me. So thank you.
Absolutely. We could talk about it afterwards.
Yes.
So we could talk about it. No, you definitely should.
Sydney, who is he?
Jeffrey's great. He's a good friend. He's got good ideas and he knows a good story.
Yeah.
So definitely fought with him.
Yeah.
For sure.
I'm just in the space. So I'm just really blessed, even for the fact though too, Sydney, with meeting you at the gym. You introduced me to Josh and introduced him to Osborne and them helping take care of me while I was in Africa. Like it's important that my network looks the way it does and how it's been forming.
Not only does it expand, but it's also quality.
Quality,
it's a reflection of you. It's a reflection of you, and you are highly favored.
Yeah.
Like it's radiating off of you. So
I feel it.
And your message is clear and it's powerful enough. That's why these type of people keep coming around you, because your message is clear and it's powerful. It's like, oh, we need to attach ourselves to that because this sister's going somewhere, or she's trying to do something. So let me give her my resources to help her along her journey.
Right. Well, in 2012, I was a keynote speaker for the Boys and Girls Club annual auction, so you can watch that.
Yeah.
Oh, we gotta get. Now you got this. You got this podcast.
Now I have this. So this is the second.
Thank you for being
Thank
here.
you. So thank you for thinking of me. So thank you so much.
I knew you had a great story. I'm glad I got to hear more, and I'm glad we allowed ourselves to hear it raw and fresh in this moment. So thank you for opening up.
Thank you.
You're such an inspiration. Like I can't wait to continue our relationship and this book.
Yeah. So I have one last question.
Yes.
One last question. So you mentioned the Boys and Girls Club.
Yeah.
And you mentioned the village. Mm-hmm. How critical is it to have help? Because there's this narrative that's like, I don't need nobody. I can do it all by myself. Right. But there's like, it's this messaging, like, I don't need nobody. I can do it by myself. Mm-hmm. But you clearly gave kudos to every single person along the way. It's like, no, it would be hard if I didn't have my co-parents, family in the corner, the Boys and Girls Club, like these gentlemen, like my godfather, all this stuff. Right. So why are people saying they don't need help when clearly help helps?
Right. I think that too, people who say that they don't need help don't have clear direction of what they truly want either. So then it's more of you facing the music of what it looks like and what you have to go through to get to where you're at. A lot of people don't want to do the fight to get there. So they make this excuse that I don't need help, because then it sets a stage of expectation of what the hurdles you have to go through to get through it. It's not a straight line.
Right.
And everybody wants that straight line. So when they say, oh, I don't need help, it's probably because they want to hide and not do the work that they need to do. I'm going to say, listen, I need some help. This is what it looks like. This is where I'm trying to go. And pride gets in the way.
Right.
Pride.
And pride, what they say about pride?
I mean, I don't know, but it ain't too
It
ain't
comes
too
before
good
the
all the
fall.
time.
Pride
Yeah.
comes before the fall.
Not that helpful.
So you have
Yeah.
to be willing to receive the help, even though you might stumble and fall and pick yourself up. I don't care how many times you got to pick up yourself through the process of it. You still have someone that's going to help pick you up.
Right.
And then also the relationships and the quality of the relationships that you have along the way to receive those help. It's very, very important, because you could have people that those people might have been burned on the other end too, of others trying to help them because they had a motive and they wanted something out of it.
Right.
So your discernment just has to be on point. And I've just always, for some odd reason, I've just had this discernment since I was a little girl. Like, I could read people, I know people, and if I feel energy or feel something about you, I'm not fucking with you. Like, I cut it off. So people say that. I think, and my son has said this one day. My son plays basketball, and he's been navigating this JUCO market of playing basketball. And now he has a couple of schools that are talking to him. But I remember having this conversation with him is more of just pride, of sitting down and saying to him, you need to humble yourself and smell yourself, because you do need help. And you talk about how you don't need help. Everything in life is a network. It's a business. Someone knows someone. It's a tipping point, the connecting that's going on. And so you have to be willing to bear all that's going to come along with that, and be wanting to arise above that to even receive that help. So anybody who's denying the help, they're not ready for the change.
Right.
So be ready for that, and you will accept the help.
Absolutely.
Right. Right. And I love what you said earlier in that message too, because I know there's people who don't say they don't want help. It's just because they've been getting it from the wrong people.
Right.
They don't have I'm gonna do it by myself. Then.
Right.
And like you said, that discernment can solve that.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, that's
Just
beautiful.
it's everything that I think that just as us as humans, as our people, there's a lot that we need to help with our healing so that we could become better within our space.
Absolutely.
Because there's been I don't get me on the history thing, but it goes back so far that we have to break those chains and continuously have our children break those chains, so that story just starts looking different.
What's, as we part and close up shop here, what's one thing that you would recommend people explore to help with their healing journey that's helped you?
Ooh, have you sat by yourself for a very long time? Have you?
Absolutely. I'm an only child. I love sitting by myself.
Have you sat with yourself for a long time? Do you know what you can hear when you're sitting by yourself for a long time, right? And I think there's too many of us who, when we're going through things in life, that we trauma bond. And trauma bonding is not you sitting with yourself and hearing the music. And we have to learn how to face ourselves and be ready for what that truly looks like, so we can face it. It's being accountable for bringing yourself some of the things that you have been dealing with. And then also having someone to speak with, whether you consider that your therapist or your special someone. But I say number one starts with sitting within solitude and finding that stillness and sitting with yourself, so you can hear that.
Not just for a minute or 3 minutes, you like a long period of time.
It's a long period of time.
Like, know
And
what
it comes
your
with
voice sounds like.
sacrifice.
Yeah,
It comes with sacrifice. And the discernment becomes so heavy. Eating clean becomes so, like, you're like, oh no, this is not what I'm doing.
Right.
And it's just part of you just taking care of yourself, pouring into yourself. You start making different decisions, different things start happening. You start losing friends.
Yeah.
It's okay though. It's part of growth.
Oh, thank you so much
No
for being
worries.
here. I'm sure some people are feeling healed or heard or seen right now listening to this. So
Check
thank
out
you for
LaQuanna's
being
book
here.
in 2025. Is
Yes.
2025.
Yes.
The tales of the coup.
The Tales of the Coup. Right. Quan
Oh, we
Street
got a
Prophet.
title.
Yeah.
You heard it
Quan,
first right here.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I appreciate you. Thank you.